it was interesting. Matt LaFleur was asked about the players' survey. So they did player surveys forever, but the owners don't like it because especially like Arizona or the Jets or a lot of these owners, they get called out. They get Fs. Matt LaFleur did not get an F. He got a B minus. B minus is not a D minus. A B minus is basically my college transcript, and that's fine. But what I like about it is that he didn't deny it. He said, I got to figure out why. He addressed it and he owned it. And I think that's what smart people do and what smart organizations do. They stay ahead of problems. Proactive, not reactive. So a prime example is the San Francisco 49ers got a very solid grade, a B to a B minus with their training staff and their training facilities. They immediately addressed it. $9 million into upgrading their training facilities, and they hired 3 or 4 more trainers to give the players more individual access. So, I mean, player surveys are not everything, but they're something. I think by and large, now they're occasionally in any workforce, you're going to get grumpy guy and, I'm not getting treated fairly guy. But when you have a collective and, Matt LaFleur, who, by the way, since 2019 is second to Andy Reid in wins by active coaches. So he's tied with Harbaugh for second. He's ahead of Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. So he's a really good coach. But this is what I've always lauded the Dodgers for. Dodgers were number 1 in baseball, number 1 in attendance. They win the World Series in 2024. What do? Improve the stadium. Like, stay ahead of stuff. Be current. So the Yankees.
Okay, not the Yankees, the Green Bay Packers. Listen, I've talked about Matt LaFleur a lot and especially last off-season going into this past season, right? I was very firm with what I wanted to see with Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and all that type of stuff and didn't quite exactly go how I was hoping it to go. But then it was interesting because now this off-season or near the end of last season people were talking about well is Matt LaFleur gonna stay? Is he a problem? And I still was like no Matt LaFleur is great. Matt LaFleur is great. Keep Matt LaFleur. I'm a huge fan of Matt LaFleur. He's imperfect. Like any coach we see all these coaches look at these top 5 coaches right here since 2019. People are complaining that Andy Reid's too dated right now. Matt LaFleur, obviously you know that. John Harbaugh got fired. Kyle Shanahan, people are like, you're terrible in the second half. You can't win when you don't have the lead. Like how Colin used to go on and on and on about how he's too close. He's too tight to his playbook, etc., etc., etc. And Sean McVay, we've seen have suspect play calls in key moments when you're just like, you called that play on 4th and 2. Like, what the heck was that? And that's just the way it go. I was thinking about this honestly probably last week thinking about that's what makes football so great that I can be thinking about, what a mistake Sean McVay made. I could be like, oh I can't believe Sean McVay did that and it's again Sean McVay will know more about football than I will probably know anything in my entire life. So it's just funny that I could be like I can't believe Sean did that. And it was just yeah, just honestly, it's a perfect example of how no matter how great you are, no matter how much you know, no matter how much of an expert you are, you still can make mistakes and there's still people right around the corner ready to judge you and say that you did something wrong. So, it's really a great little life lesson. Because if people in the absolute experts in their field are going to get judged and make mistakes, you're certainly going to make some mistakes and you're certainly going to be judged by whether it be friends, family, coworkers, strangers, whoever. But the B- thing is so fascinating and I don't see this being discussed really with regards to this because people automatically assume it's about the coach and it not always is. Sometimes it is definitely and it's hard to really know unless you kind of have more of a sense. A team really becomes a community. Now, I've talked about my background and playing and all that type of stuff, but I actually think it's more interesting. My mind actually goes less when I think about teams that I played for. And it actually ironically thinks about when I was A counselor at a men's inpatient rehab facility because that recycled a lot more regularly than any teams that I was on, especially once you're playing at a higher level, you have the same coach for a long time and a big core of the guys you're playing with are going to be kind of constant. So like that there's not really a lot of recycling there and you kind of just fall in line no matter what the situation is. Clears throat, but for me, what I really observed kind of quickly because, it was every like 1 to 3 months, you'd have the community would recycle at the rehab facility because they'd be discharged. They'd be, they'd be leaving. And we're still the same team, the same treatment team, and it's the same guys who are all working there and, being therapists and techs and all that type of stuff. And occasionally you'd have a community for a stretch where everything just was really kind of perfect. It just fit. Everyone understood what needed to be done. Everybody was motivated, well behaved, etc., etc., etc. And other times it was awful. You're finding stuff in C. You're finding stuff in air vents and there's just chaos, right? You can go from one extreme to the next. And sometimes the whole community is like, you're the best counselor ever, dude. You're just so good. You're the best, man. You really care. You really care. You're awesome. You're this. You're that. I'm just so grateful to be here. And then in a blink of the eye, you have another community that's like, you're awful. You have no idea what you're doing. You're the worst. I don't want to be here. And it's like, I'm the same person. So is my coworkers, so is etc., etc. And it was just for me it was such a crash course in that experience of just how much things can change and how much especially kind of like group thinking and how things can be contagious with a community also a team. And so you see like a B- and you can automatically see the players don't like Matt LaFleur blah 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 and it's like it could be Matt LaFleur because also Colin's kind of downplaying a B-. Like if you're a coach, when you're a coach, like you are interacting with these players all day, every day. Like they all know who you are. You know who they are. Like it is a very intimate relationship. I'm not going to tell you that someone like Matt LaFleur on a football team is intimately is that close to every single player because he just can't be. But you all know who the coach is and they all, and he knows you. Like it's a close-knit relationship whether you're having one-on-one time talking to him a lot inside jokes or none of that. It's very clear. It's very cut, very specific. And that a B- is not good. Like that's you're having the vast majority of people pretty much be like nah. Yeah. It's not a D. It's not an F. It's not even a C necessary, but it's like nah. And you'd have to see the distribution because it could be a handful of A's and a bunch of C's that bring it up to a B-. Or it could be all B's. Everyone's just willing to put a B and then you have a couple people that, have a B- or C's that, you don't really know the actual true distribution. I'd also love to know that when you rate the coach, is it just rate the coach or is there specific criteria? Is there specific questions that you then answer that then gets put together to give you that grade? Is it I feel that the coach helps me reach my goals? I feel that the coach, is, open to my questions and concerns. I feel like coach is approachable, right? Like I don't know if it gets broken down in that regard. Pretty much if you ever had to answer a survey, I don't know whether it be a teacher or a boss or I don't know any time they're like will you take a survey and did have I answered all your questions right was it easy to get to a person whatever type of is like I don't really know it could be very much like rate your coach and that's it my guess is it's probably a little bit deeper than that and you graded all that and then it gets pushed together but like I honestly don't know that would be my guess but clears throat. So it could be just a couple things that really drag him down that maybe he's not as approachable and so that brought him down or maybe people don't feel that he hears their concerns, maybe that's part of it. Like I don't really know. But it could be him and it could be just that the community itself is a little out, like that they're a little frustrated or whatever it may be. It's just not connecting. Now, you can take the hard stance and say, well, that's up to Matt LaFleur to figure out. He's got to meet the team where they're at, blah, and it's like some of that is true, some of it's not. Some of it is just team construction. We talk about the importance of culture and usually we look at it through the lens of like the coach and maybe like a leader like a quarterback like a Mahomes or Josh Allen or something. Like, oh, culture. Because I'm huge on culture. I really am. And I think it's really important. But sometimes you have a team, you have too many players that you just can't unite them. You can't build that culture because you don't have enough guys that are willing to do that. I've played with plenty of players that if I think about it now, I'd cringe at having to play with. I'd cringe at having to coach. I'd cringe to just see them in a grok. Airy store and I'd be like, oh my gosh, how do you just wrangle all these guys together? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd want nothing to do with them. See, I'm not going to say any names, but like they're immediately coming to my mind. I immediately see them. I immediately see myself in the moments talking to them, on the sidelines, on the bench, wherever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you are really good, but I would want nothing to do with you. I just don't want any of it because I know the things that you're talking about in the lines when we're doing drills. I know the things that you're talking about when we're on the bus, on the plane, whatever. I know things that you're doing in the locker. I know who you are and I don't want anything to do. I don't want that in my locker room. I don't want that energy. But like, you don't always have a choice. You don't always have a choice. So I do think some of these things are a little bit more complex and interwoven than just oh Matt LaFleur has a B- and there you go that means players don't like him that means he's not that good or that means he's unlikable whatever it may be because you also have bad coaches that have great grades. I don't remember off the top of my head this time around but I definitely know in the past and so it's like it doesn't automatic Colin talks about this that the interim coach is always beloved in the locker room. The interim coaches are always loved and it doesn't mean that they're right for the job. They're right for the job. And then of course we have other coaches in the past that have been great over the years and they're not beloved. And so it's interesting for me. That's why at the bottom line. I need a coach that makes me feel 1 comfortable and 2 gives me solutions to the problem. I talk about that all the time. I need a coach that gives me solutions to the problem because there are always problems that arise. There are always problems that arise. I defend a Dan Campbell and I defend a Sirianni and whatnot. I need a coach that can solve the problem. I need to be able to go to them and say, I don't understand this. I'm confused about this. I failed in that moment. What do I need to do? I can't have a coach who's just like, come on, man. You got to put in the work. Yeah, this is what we worked on. You got to put in the work. I'm like, what does that mean right now to me? I need a solution to the problem. I need a solution about I also need a coach that does empower me. And that is where I will defend, the Dan Campbell and the whatnot. A coach that does make me feel that I can make mistakes. A coach that does make me feel that like I am putting in the work and I do know that I'm putting in the work and it doesn't feel like no matter what I do is wrong or a failure or that if I make a single mistake, it's over. Or, it's done. I just lost my, I'm no longer a starter now. I'm losing my minutes. I'm losing my reps, I don't want to be in that environment either. But it's just I don't know. It's I can guarantee you I could probably connect on a deeper level than Matt LaFleur to these players ever could. Yeah. Matt LaFleur could easily without a shadow of a doubt will help those players win more games than I ever could dream of. Yeah. On the surface level, I am very confident people would say I'm more likable than a Matt LaFleur. I really am confident. I'm confident based on my observations of Matt LaFleur. I'm confident that I'd be a much better hang than Matt LaFleur. And so it's not hard to imagine that I could potentially get a higher grade by the players than Matt LaFleur. And yet doesn't mean that I'm a better coach than Matt LaFleur. So that's where the grades are just, you got to be a little careful how you jump to conclusions with regards to it. And I think honestly at the end of the day there's not enough information to draw strong conclusions. But I do appreciate the approach that Matt LaFleur is taking, because regardless of how you got there, whether it's more on him, whether it's just kind of the vibes of the team, etc., is irrelevant, because it is still Matt LaFleur's job to navigate it. And I'll link back at the, and end here, about, the community that I was talking about at the, being co-consular and all that. When we had a community that was just like, you're bad, you're terrible, you don't know what you're doing. It was still my job to navigate that. It was still my job to meet them where they're at and help them, and find a way through that. Because I can't just like, well, that's your opinion, so see you later. Like, that's, it's you got to help the people. So, I do appreciate the approach that Matt LaFleur is taking. And I will, keep my eyes open, but I'm curious, if anyone else has any type of, any Packers fan who's locked into like the local media or any of the insiders, if there's any more information with regards to this, or are there any other reports of what some of the players have issues with? Definitely please let me know. I haven't heard anything personally. So if you have any of that information, please definitely let me know. I'd love to read it. I always mention this, semi-regularly, that it's like I never see this channel as me just having all of the answers. I can't possibly know every single thing about every single team in every single moment. It's why I talk about community so much, because I really do see this as a community, and so I rely on you guys to be like, oh, I watch, whatever. I listened to the local Packers radio and they were saying that this is what they heard, but it's just like, let me know some of that stuff. Keeps me informed, keeps me, music, have a deeper understanding of everything, and, then we can talk about it. So, but those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. Sorry. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.